Okay, so good to see you diehards here. Welcome. Um, I know I've been to this group before, but there's my contact info. And if you have any follow-up questions, or we're certainly small enough, so if you have questions along the way or comments, please let me know. And I think you probably also know about Employee and Family Resources, the phone number there, and the website, although that actually website is outdated, but that still goes to, I'll fix that when I send them over to you. But today we're going to talk mostly about focus. I thought, there's with so many distractions in our world, we're going to sort of two parts. So, first, talk about focus and how to train our attention. And secondly, talk about connection and compassion since tomorrow is Valentine's Day.
Mhm.
And, just the whole idea of um, being more connected and more compassionate towards ourselves as well. But of course, with those around us. So, where is your attention now? So I just opened it up, but there's lots going on. It's a snowy morning and you may have things on your to-do list, but where is your attention right now? Just sort of turn inward and just kind of check in with yourself. Is your attention somewhat stable, or is there lots of things going on in the mind, or there's whatever? Just kind of notice what thoughts are there, what's going on in the body, and what's maybe happening emotionally. I'm just asking yourself those, checking in, kind of the internal weather check. And now let's just do a little bit of breathing. So focus on the breath, feel the breath going in and out. And maybe take a couple of deeper breaths that can often help us to really feel the breath. Long inhale, long, slow exhale. You can even exhale with a sigh, sigh it out through your mouth. Do that one more time. Long, slow inhale, filling the lungs. And an even longer exhale, letting the body settle and relax as you do that. Feel the body kind of sinking into the chair. And then just, again, feel the breath going in and out. And that's it. That's just kind of a quick pause before we get started. And these pauses are really helpful in focusing our attention when we are kind of scattered, when we have lots to go going on. And they can be done in, a couple minutes. So it's the kind of thing you can do at work. You don't have to sit and close your eyes and, quote unquote, meditate, but you can take these pauses, check your attention, do some breathing, and then proceed. And usually that changes a little bit of you can release a little tension, you can let the body relax, let the mind settle, even in a couple of minutes. So, daily practices, I mean, I know it's hard for a lot of people to do daily um, practices, but there are two types of practices: a formal practice, which is actually sitting, and we'll do one of those. Actually, we're going to do a couple of those today. We're going to use the flashlight and river of thought meditation. And then informal practices, just like we just did, a quick pause, but also one of the things we do in like the classes, I think Candace is taking it with me, is we also try to notice pleasant and unpleasant events and how we react to those. What's our normal way? Like when something pleasant happens, it's kind of nice, we maybe get a nice warm feeling or the body feels good, pleasant thoughts. But what happens when there are unpleasant things? What goes through our mind and how do we react to those? And that's the whole idea, is just to gain some insight and awareness to how we typically react, because we kind of have a choice. We have a choice between that stimulus and our own response. And that's the one thing we can't control. We can't control the stimulus. Like if we really don't like snow, we can't control that it's snowing. It's going to snow until it ends.
Mhm.
But we can control our response to So, basically, with an ongoing practice, we try to balance the formal practices, try to do them regularly if possible, with some informal practice. Another good example of an informal practice is like when you're washing your hands or doing any of those typical routine practices. When you wash your hands, just pay attention to what it feels like, to the sensations, to the sound of the water, to the smell of the soap, to the feel of and feel and temperature of the water, and then rinsing off and then drying off. And all you're really doing there is you're focusing your attention on the act of washing your hands instead of letting the mind kind of run amok and be thinking about all the things that's going on. You're just taking a little break while you're doing those routine practices. So that's a nice informal thing you can try as well. So with all the distractions that we have, this is from the book called Peak Mind, which is a really good book, by the way. Dr. Amishi Jha, who studied attention with high stress occupations like the military and police and other first responders. And what she found is that one of the best things to help us train our focus, especially in high stress situations, is mindfulness and meditation. And so she uses the metaphor of using a flashlight to kind of train our attention. And I'm going to use that when we do the meditation. We're going to focus the flashlight on our breath and on, what's going on inside. And so the good thing about it is that our flashlight beam gets distracted all the time. Like she uses the analogy, if we're walking down a dark path and we are using a flashlight to light the way ahead of us, but we hear a strange sound behind us or in the bushes, we're going to turn and we're going to shine that flashlight because, we're want to make sure we're okay, right? It's the same thing with just everyday activities. We have all these distractions and our flashlight gets redirected. And the trick that we'll do, not the trick, but the practice is to redirect the flashlight back to the breath or some anchor in the body. And that's a way of training our attention. And what she found in the studies is that the more we did that, the more it strengthens your capacity to focus. And the last point there, that we have this fantastic capacity to direct our attention. So, when you're really focused, when you're working on something and you're really focused, you're really shining almost like a laser beam, your focus is. And this whole practice can really help that. But we know there are things like stress and poor mood and threat. These are the kryptonite. These are the things that really erode our focus. And so, I think we can all relate to that when we're under stress and there's a lot going on and or we're in a bad mood and our mind is thinking about and processing all that stuff. It's not so easy to focus on the task at hand. Same thing if you're under threat or perceived threat, you're going to be worried about that, not what's right in front of you. So just that kind of note that there are plenty of things that make it difficult to keep our attention focused. But the practice of meditation and mindfulness, and if you do it with some routine and some regularity, is going to really help and strengthen the muscle of attention. Make sense?
Yep.
All right. Yeah. I mean, it's not too difficult. So one of the practices, aside from the flashlight, is this: when you're breathing, even in a brief thing like we just did, or if you're doing a longer exercise, mental noting. So it's a way to kind of train the attention. So when you're breathing in, you sort of say to yourself, in, and then when you're breathing out, out. In, out. Or you can use other words if you prefer, like calm. You can use something like that on the in-breath, calm, and then focus on the out-breath. And if you do that even 3 to 5 to 10 times on a regular basis, that's also going to strengthen your attention. But we're going to use the image of the flashlight in this exercise. And we're also going to notice our thoughts. So what happens, as I think you know, you guys are have some experience with meditation, is even when we're sitting and focusing on the breath, what happens is we get distracted, right? And thoughts pop up and they pull or even hijack our attention. Oh, yeah, I've got to do this later. I got to make sure I remember to take care of that thing on the to-do list, or I've got to, what are we having for dinner tonight? Or I'm hungry right now. Or, there's so many things that happen in our thoughts, in our emotions, and in our body that pull our attention. So we're going to use the image of the flashlight first as a way to kind of stabilize our attention. And then we're going to use the image of this river of thoughts. And we're not going to think of thoughts as a bad thing. We're just going to watch them flow by, but not get engaged with them. So those are the two things that we're going to be doing. So let's get started. So this will take maybe not too long, maybe 6, 7, 8 minutes, something like that. So just find a position that's comfortable wherever you are and take a moment to sit in a way that's balanced and comfortable so you can be relaxed, but also not too comfortable because I want you to be able to pay attention. And you can also close your eyes, but you don't have to. If you feel more comfortable keeping them slightly open, keep your gaze soft and unfocused down in front of you if you keep your eyes open, or close them completely, whichever you prefer. And then we're going to set an intention to put aside any unnecessary thoughts regarding plans, agendas, projects. This time is like a gift to yourself. Everything else can wait until later. For right now, all you have to do is relax and be right here. Okay? And we'll start with the breath. So breathe and follow your breath, following the breath, moving at its natural pace. And tune into breath-related sensations. So this might be the coolness of the air going in and out of the nostrils, might be the sensation of your lungs filling up your chest, or it might be your belly moving in and out. Choose one of those areas where you really feel the breath-related sensations most directly. Choose that area to focus on and direct your attentional focus here like a flashlight with a strong, bright beam. And just keep it there as you continue to breathe in and out and feel the breath wherever you feel it, that one spot. And simply notice whenever your flashlight has moved. If something pops up like a thought or anything that pulls your attention away from the breath, just notice that your flashlight has moved, and then move it back to the next breath. So we're noticing when thoughts or sensations arise that pull our flashlight off target. Could be a sudden reminder that there's something you need to do. It might be a memory floating up, or it might be an itch or some other body sensation. Whenever that happens, just simply, without giving yourself a hard time, just redirect your flashlight back to the anchor of the breath. All right. Now, broaden your awareness. kind of like instead of a flashlight, more like a floodlight. So you're not selecting any target object. And use the metaphor or the image of your mind being like a river. And you're standing on the riverbank watching the water flow by. And imagine your thoughts, memories, sensations, emotions, whatever arises, as if they're flowing past you on the river. Notice whatever appears there, but don't engage with it. Don't fish it up or chase it or elaborate on it. Just let it float by. So you might notice a thought, just notice it, let it float on by. Whatever comes up, whatever mental activity comes up, just be aware of it. Let it float on by, float on down the river. Your job right now is not even to be making distinctions about what's useful or relevant. Just these thoughts and these other things are just mental activity, mental events. It's almost like your mind is wandering. You can just let it go and just let it, but keep your attention sort of focused on the river. This is what we call open monitoring and being aware of those thoughts, but not engaging with them. So letting your mind do what it will do. And your job is simply to observe that flow at a little bit of a distance. If you have any difficulty letting things pass by you, just come back to the breath. And you can imagine your breath sensations are like a boulder in the middle of that flowing water. And rest your attention on that stable, steady object. And when you feel ready, you can broaden your attention again and go back to open monitoring. Okay, let's now come back to the breath for a moment before we close and just feel the breath. Just come back to that boulder in the river. Feel the breath moving in and out, maybe taking another one big deep breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes if they've been closed. And maybe if you feel like moving a little bit, that sometimes is helpful. Feel free to do that, stretch a little bit. And that's the end of the flashlight and river of thought exercise. So just kind of notice what that feels like now. It probably feels a little different than when we first started. But I don't know. You tell me, what was that like for you? What was that experience like? Any comments or thoughts about what we just did?
Total relaxation.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very calming.
Mm-hmm.
And I have lots of thoughts, so that's good.
Me too. I had a long chain of thoughts, but then I was able to come back.
Push it away.
Yeah, it's nice.
Too many things going on, so I was able to bring it back because the flashlight was very helpful. That analogy.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
For sure.
Good to hear that. Yeah, so that's well said and exactly the point of the exercise. Sometimes we think of thoughts as like the enemy and, like, oh, I'm having too many thoughts. But remember, meditation is not about trying to get rid of thoughts. It's not about emptying your mind. It's more kind of like about managing your thoughts, seeing the thoughts come and go, not to get engaged with them. at least during the meditation. It may happen during the day, and that's fine. Sometimes, our train of thoughts are very helpful, and they help us problem solve and create and work on projects and so forth. But in meditation, we're training the attention, first of all, and we're also noticing thoughts. And the next part of that is, which we won't do today, but what's good about that exercise is they can then notice what thoughts are helpful and what thoughts are not so helpful. And that's where some of the insight comes. So why do we do meditation? What's your intention when you sit to meditate? It could be any one of these things. You mentioned relaxation and calming, and that's often what we need because our lives are stressful and kind of hectic. So sometimes we just need to reset and relax, step back from stress, focus, as I've been talking about. I like to think of it, that idea of relaxed attentiveness, sort of a combination of being relaxed, but also focused. Because if we're relaxed and stressed, well, I mean, you can still be focused. I said that wrong. If we're focused and stressed, you can still get stuff done, but by the end of the day, you're going to be tense and you're going to have shoulder pain or whatever, and it's not so good. That's why these little brief pauses are helpful too. It can also help us gain insight. But another reason is that all of these practices can help us be better connected and in tune with others, whether it's at work or at home or with our friends or whatever. The more we are mindfully aware of what's going on with us, the more we train our ability to really listen, and tune in and be empathetic to what other people are going through. That strengthens our social connections, right? Yep. So just a couple of words on how important connection is. I mean, I don't think we can deny the fact that how difficult it was during the pandemic. We had social distancing, they called it, but it was really physical distancing. We still try to connect with people over, our screens and stuff. So we know that how bad it was when we couldn't connect with people, when we didn't have it, when it wasn't so easy. So we know how important that is. And we know that loneliness and social isolation are big risk factors for poor health, poor emotional health, but even poor physical health. And attention is one of the fundamental building blocks of all social relationships. The ability to stay focused on a person's conversation and their needs and the point they're trying to get across is really important. So distraction equals disconnection. And this cartoon kind of says it all. I like this Dilbert cartoon. Studies say people are losing their ability to focus because of all the digital distractions. So the guy in the middle thing, he goes, sorry, what? Because that little thing, he's looking at his phone. And then Dilbert goes, hold on, he's getting beeped. And the guy on the left, what were you saying? He goes, I don't know, probably wasn't important. Total disconnection. So, our phones, as we know, in fact, there have been some recent studies that show how much it gets in the way. And they've even done some things like they're talking about it in the schools, trying to get kids to maybe put their phones there's these new phone bags, I guess you can put them in. And even in like big events, like I've read that in concerts, they ask people to put their phones away and not be distracted because they're not really experiencing what's going on right in the moment. Now, this is an exercise. I'm not going to have you do this because it's kind of hard on Zoom, but it's a good exercise to try with somebody. You choose a partner and one person talks just for 2 minutes and tells like about the weekend or whatever. Could be any, topic, but you could talk about what your plans, what you did last weekend or what your plans are for the coming weekend for 2 minutes, and then the other person just listens with focus, doesn't say anything. This is hard. This is hard not to say anything. But when you're listening, notice what distracts you. Notice the internal distractions. Notice the external distractions. And then you switch roles so you both get a taste of it. And then you just reflect on what was it really like to really listen, and what was it like to be listened to. And then you can kind of process that. So it's a nice little exercise to try with somebody. It only takes a few minutes, but it's kind of fun, and you just really, again, it's about practicing your listening skills and being mindfully aware during listening. And I think most of us, we probably listen pretty well, especially at work, but there can be a lot of distractions. And so, that's kind of one of a connection practice. But another thing to reflect on in a connection practice is, now I'm getting distracted right now because I'm hearing my cat. My cat's at the window there. You can't see him, but he's distracting me. So connection practice simply is, and you can close your eyes if you want to for this. All we're doing right now with this connection practice is we're bringing to mind somebody in your life that you're connected to, and that you appreciate, and that you're grateful for. So just take a moment to bring that person into your mind's eye. And then just think about, what is it that you really appreciate about them? Maybe the way they are, the way they listen, maybe the things they do to help you and support you, whatever it is, just kind of noticing that. And then once you've done that a little bit, take another moment with that. Just appreciate why they're important to you, why you're grateful for them. Where do you feel that in your body? So turn inward and see if you can notice, where do you feel that appreciation in your body? If you can, it's just scan through the body. Sometimes we feel it in the heart or chest area. Sometimes we feel maybe a sense of ease and being relaxed and supported. Whatever it is, just notice. If it's hard to notice, don't worry. This takes a little bit of practice, but just turn inward. And then if you wanted to say something to them, what would it be about how you appreciate them? If you wanted to give them that little feedback and that nice little message of care and appreciation, what would you tell them? All right, so just kind of noticing that. We can finish the exercise, but just kind of being aware of that. And maybe later you want to do that. Maybe later you want to give them that feedback or that message of care. So that's just a quick example of a connection practice. And again, I think we all know how important it is, but in our busy lives, it's not always so easy to do that. Even with our, closest family members, more people at work, we get distracted. We take things for granted. So the next slide I want to go to is talking about self-compassion and self-kindness, because sometimes we can be hard on ourselves, right? The inner critic comes up. So maybe we didn't pay attention to somebody the way we wanted to, and we realize that later, and we say we're kind of beating ourselves up over that. So why is it that we do that to ourselves, but we don't do that to our best friend? So the idea here is to be kind to ourselves and treat ourselves like we would treat our best friend. If your best friend did something and shared that to you that they were not happy about, or they were being critical of themselves, what would you say to them? How would you support them? And do that for yourself. That's kind of the message here. Treat yourself the same way you would treat your best friend, as a way of being self-compassionate. And the research, Kristin Neff, that's in the last part of this, Neff's research, she's a big researcher on self-compassion. And she suggests that replacing self-esteem, well, I'll read it first. Replacing self-esteem with self-compassion may have far superior implications for our mental health and well-being. And just think about that for a minute. Oftentimes we think of, well, our self-esteem is really, really important, and we try to teach our kids to have good self-esteem. But the research is showing what's really more important is that we're kind to ourselves. And when we're kind to ourselves, we're going to be kind to other people. And that is more important than self-esteem, which self-esteem usually has to do with our achievements and what we, think is important. But self-compassion is really more important. And that's what the research shows. So moving to this next idea about making space, and this is where our mindfulness and our meditation comes in handy. Making space for ourselves gives ourselves permission to let go of self-judgment for a few minutes and approach our need with more compassion. Research shows that when we practice self-compassion, we're less likely to feel anxious and stressed, and more likely to feel happy and resilient. This can regulate our heart rate, reduce inflammation, and improve sleep. So it has emotional well-being benefits, and it has physical well-being benefits. So kind of keep that in mind. That's just sort of good reasons to do these practices. We're going to get to the next practice is going to be a compassion, self-compassion practice. But just quickly, the three elements of self-compassion, very simply, self-kindness, like I was talking about, finding ways to be kind to ourselves and to give ourselves a break and not to be critical. Then common humanity. So the idea that even being human, we all struggle at times. We all go through difficult times. And you never know when somebody's going through a hard time, if they're keeping to themselves. That idea is that, we're all walking around with some load, something that's on our minds, something that we're maybe struggling with in our personal lives. And so self-compassion involves recognizing that suffering and personal inadequacy are part of the shared human experience. In other words, that you're not going through this all alone. And sometimes when we're in the midst of difficult circumstances, that's what it feels like. But we can recognize that it's not just me, it's something that we all are experiencing at various times. The third, which really in some ways should be first, is mindfulness. But because I think when we are mindful, we recognize internally when we are being not so kind to ourselves or others. And we, again, can take the time and space to create that space to be more aware of how you want to respond to others, how you want to listen, how you want to connect, how you want to be compassionate to yourself. So mindfulness practices are really important ingredient to all this. So like I said, in honor of Valentine's Day, we're going to do kind of a loving kindness practice. Loving kindness is a traditional mindfulness practice that I'll guide you through. It's really easy. We'll start with a little, stabilizing our attention, focusing on the breath. But then we'll move into thinking about other people and ourselves, kind of like what we did before, and sending ourselves messages of care and compassion. And then we'll finish again with some breathing. And it's a good practice to do. So let's begin this practice. And again, probably about 6, 7, 8 minutes. So like we did before, take a position that's comfortable. So take a moment to adjust your position. Whatever feels right for you. But again, basic guidelines are to sit relatively upright so you can be alert and attentive, and to feet flat, have your feet flat on the floor, but be comfortable, whatever is really comfortable for you. Relaxed attentiveness. And again, closing the eyes, if you're okay with that, you can close your eyes or you can keep them slightly open with a downward gaze in front of you, either way. And we'll start again. Let's make an intention to put aside all those things that are, kind of like on our radar screen today. The tasks, the projects, the things we got to do. Just put them aside. They'll be there when we're done. But intentionally put them aside so we can just focus on this practice and being right here, right now. But when you do get distracted, like we did before also, don't worry. Don't give yourself a hard time. Distraction and mind wandering are part of what happens. So just bring yourself back to the breath. So let's focus on the breath for a few moments. Just feel the breath going in and out. If you want to use that image of the flashlight, keep your flashlight focused on that part of the breath where you feel it easily. So maybe at the nose or the throat, maybe at the chest and the lungs, or maybe at the belly. And just let the body breathe itself and just follow the breath so that you know when you're breathing in, know when you're breathing out. And again, whenever you get distracted, that happens, not to worry. Notice that. Bring your focus back to the next breath. Okay, very good. Now, with that mindful awareness and that mindful base, in a sense, bring to mind somebody in your life that you appreciate. Could be the same person we talked about before. Just bring to mind that person who cares for you, who supports you, who's important to you. You could even imagine maybe sitting next to them or across from them so that you can see their face, and send them these messages. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be well and healthy. May you be free from suffering. And may you live with ease. And again, just sending them those messages kind of from your heart to theirs, in a sense. May you be safe and well and healthy and happy. And you can use whatever words you like. I'm just giving you ones to use, but you can change them up if you like. May you be free from suffering, and may you live with ease. And just kind of let that sink in as you send them those messages of care and compassion. Now, include yourself in that. You could even imagine yourself sitting with them and sending both of you the same messages, or just sending yourself the messages, but we'll say it as Doing it to both. May we be safe and healthy and well. May we be happy. May we be free from suffering and live with ease. And make sure you're really including yourself in that message. You want to turn it to may I be safe and healthy and happy, free from suffering and live with ease. Just give yourself that message of care and self-compassion. Now we can expand this to others, and so you might expand this to others in your family or even coworkers or friends, anybody who comes to mind, just even as a group if you want, or a single person or even a pet. And just send them the same messages. May you be safe and healthy and happy. May you be free from suffering and live with ease. And again, just feel what that feels like to send those messages and to be kind of radiating that care and compassion. And the last part of the exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to come back to the breath and feel yourself breathing in and breathing out. And as you breathe in, focus on the in-breath. Breathe in for yourself, whatever it is you need right now or today. What do you need? Breathing in maybe some sense of nurturing or nourishment. Whatever it is, just breathe in, focusing on yourself on each in-breath. May I be free from stress, whatever it is. May I be relaxed. May I be connected. May I take care of myself. Whatever it is for you, just focus on that sense of nurturing for yourself as you breathe in. A couple more times as you breathe in. Now, as you breathe out, focus on the out breath and bring to mind that person or persons and sending them those messages of care and compassion on each out breath. So you're kind of like, as you breathe out, you're sending them messages of care and compassion as you breathe out. Do that for a few cycles. You can use words or just imagine it. You can even imagine like a beam of light going from your heart to theirs. You're sending them that nurturing and care and compassion, kindness. And then finally, just bring them together. So you're breathing in for you, breathing out for another. And do that for a little bit. Breathing in for you and breathe out for another. In and out. We'll just finish with those phrases. May we all here today be safe and healthy and happy. May we be free from suffering. May we live with ease. When you're ready, as we finish, you can begin to open your eyes slowly, reconnect with your surroundings. And again, you might want to move, stretch a little bit as we finish. And again, just notice what that feels like. That was a little bit of a different exercise. What was that like for you? Anybody want to share a little bit of what you thought about that exercise? Don't have to, but if you want to, open to hearing what you thought.
It helped me release my jaw tension, which I've been working on lately. So I appreciate that.
That's good to hear. That's great. I love that. You like my cat? Yeah, so that's a different kind of meditation. It still focuses our attention. But again, the studies show that even this kind of meditation can help us be more connected and compassionate towards others and ourselves. And that's kind of what this practice is all about. It's not I mean, you might do it on a regular basis, or you might mix it in with other meditations that you try. I'm going to give you some, in a minute, I'll show you some other things that you can do. Here are just some other phrases. Better able to respond to stress, safe, happy, and health. We use that. Live with ease. We use that. Find purpose and meaning. I actually came across a really good TED Talk and book recently. Of course, I can't remember the name of it, but I can send that. But it's all about the idea that, we're hearing so much about, 7 steps to happiness and 7, the list of things that you can do to be happier and increase your well-being. And that's fine. That's really important, especially in this day and age. But the book is focused, and the TED Talk is focused on what's even more important is to focus on what's important to us and how we find purpose and meaning in life. And that brings at least an equal amount of satisfaction and well-being. So focusing on purpose and meaning is really helpful. All right, so I've given you a few things to think about and try. And so as a way to kind of like continue that, I'll send the slides over to you. This link here is a link to a kindness meditation, sort of like what we just did. How will you keep it going? So think about, if you find these helpful and you want to keep doing them. The studies that book I mentioned before, Peak Mind, with Dr. Amishi Jha, found that the peak most optimal period is 12 minutes a day. A lesser amount is okay. You'll still get the benefits, but the best benefits come from 12 minutes a day. So if you can carve 12 minutes out of your schedule a day to do a meditation, we have, like when you click on this, it'll go to our meditation page. There are other places I'll show you. This is, if you want to learn more about listening mindfully, there's a couple of good links here about deep listening and the sacred art of listening. Really good YouTube things to click into. And then there are some other practices. So just a lot of YouTube things on mostly on self-compassion, but just if you want to try others out, there are lots of others out there. For an informal practice, we talked about informal practices at the beginning. You might try a walking loving kindness meditation. So may not want to walk outside today, but if you're outside taking a walk, you can use some of those phrases toward yourself and others as you come across others, sending them those well wishes in your mind as you do that, as you're walking. We do have these, we're still doing the Take 10 phone meditation. So if you want to join us at any of these times, those are specific times where we do 10-minute meditation. It does last about 12 minutes because of the intro. And then this blue box here there are 3 pre-recorded on the phone meditations, the 688-6185 number. You can give those a try. And there are apps. We do actually have an app, which I guess I didn't put it in here. I'll put it in through our Employee and Family Resources program. We have a free app that's meditation based. You can download that. I'll insert that in. And there are other apps that are very helpful. There are a couple of nice free apps. One is Insight Timer, and another one is called Healthy Minds. Those are both free. And then there's 10% Happier is a really good app. It does have a charge to that, but those are just other suggestions if you want to continue some of that. So that's my last slide, and I'll say thank you so much. Any questions or comments or
Thank you
thoughts
so
about
much.
how to
Thank
keep?
you.
Well,
Wonderful.
you're very
Thank
We
you
welcome.
so much.
appreciate it every time.
Yeah.
Well,
For sure.
I appreciate you saying that because it makes me feel good, and that it's not that there's somebody out there who appreciates it, and I like coming, so I'm happy to come back at some point. And if you have any questions about any of this stuff, let me know. You can reach out to me. I'm happy to help in any way. So
Okay. Thank you, Bud. Oh, we'll definitely have
Thank
you
you.
back in a few months.
okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay, thank you so
take
much.
care.
Drive
Stay
safely.
safe in the snow.
Yeah,
Yep.
you
Okay.
too. Bye-bye.
Alrighty. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.